Gotham Knights is a multiplayer third-person action-adventure game set in the DC universe. It stars Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl, and Robin in a world after the death of Batman. The Bat family have come together to solve Batman's last case and find out just who was behind his death. Now, this game's got quite a bit of hate over the last week or two since its release, and as a massive Batman fan, I 100% understand. But it's not the disastrous game that so many have made it out to be. As a matter of fact, I think this game sits right in the middle of other generic AAA games that have been coming out over the past few years. I think the biggest problem in Gotham Knights is it was conceived as something else entirely. Let me explain. I think Gotham Knights was a live service game, and thanks to the recent hate that live service games have been getting, very much since the release of the Avengers game, they tried to pivot and make the game something else entirely, but you can definitely see the DNA of a live service game deep within its mechanics. Take, for example, the crafting system. The crafting system is like many live service games, Destiny or Avengers for example. It has a whole bunch of different materials, or mats, that you're required to collect throughout the world by doing generic activities. You then use these mats to craft armor and weapons that boast all these different stats like higher attack, higher power, but at the end of the day, in this game, it really feels like it does nothing at all. Sure, the armors look different, the weapons look different, they look cooler, they have an awesome aesthetic, but they have no impact on gameplay whatsoever, aside from elemental burns. Regardless of what I craft or equip in this, the gameplay sticks to a 3-button combat system, momentum super attacks, and doesn't really evolve past it in the 30 to 40 hours I played this game. The crimes that I have to go out and stop in order to get these materials, after about 10 hours become very samey, very boring, and that's super disappointing. Because the 3 mini-bosses the game actually give you, Harley Quinn, Mr. Freeze and Clayface, are actually really fun to fight and take on. Unfortunately, you need to do more of this generic fighting of goons in order to get to these boss fights. And that's the perfect way to sum up the game in its entirety. 10 hours of busy work for 10 minutes of pleasure. The live service game motto. And this is where the review's going to take a really interesting turn. Regardless of my complaints about the combat, the open world, the live service elements, I'm going to surprise a lot of people by saying this, but I actually like the game. I like it a fair bit, and that's going to come down to the characters. I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the time I spent in the game thanks to the interactions of these characters. Honestly, the first 10 hours of this game is a lot of fun. After that, it does really start to feel the same, but you also start to see the characters evolve, becoming the characters we know from the comics. This is very much a story about family coming together after the loss of a loved one, after the loss of a monarch, the loss of the head of the family. And who's going to take over that position? Who's going to be Batman? I think it's a really interesting question to try and answer. After Batman is gone, who will be the new Batman? Because Gotham will always need a Batman. And I think the game's story does a really good job of showing that if there was no Batman, there will always still be heroes to rise up and fight against the darkness of the city, which I enjoyed a lot. And the darkness in this city, in this game, is the Court of Owls, who I think are a really interesting antagonist, especially considering how new they are to the Batman mythology. I'm not going to go into spoilers for the game, but there are a few twists and turns that happen, and if you're not a comic book reader, you're really going to be surprised. You're going to go, wow, I didn't see that coming. So it does a really good job of adapting the New 52 run of the comics. I enjoyed the story, but pacing is a little off because it's put down by these live service elements. You'll be locked out of certain missions because of your level. You'll need to go and level up your character in the world, which again is very tedious, very boring. And after a while, once you've hit those levels, you can then go back and do these missions. You're going to have a lot of fun doing them, especially considering the 4 characters you get to play it in the game really do feel different from each other. You've got Nightwing, whose combat feels more fluid than the others. You've got Batgirl, who hacks and uses drones to fight. You've got Robin, who uses technology and feels like Robin should feel. And you also have Red Hood, who's very much a brawler of the 4. He uses his guns that have non-lethal rounds, and he feels big, he feels heavy, he feels different from the others. They all feel very different from each other, which is good, but the gameplay is also very similar. In fact, they use the same 3-button combo, momentum super ability system, so it's very easy to swap from character to character and get a feel from learning one character. It very much helps you play the others, which I appreciated. In the 30 to 40 hours I played the game, I played most of it as Nightwing. He just feels good for me. I like the flying trapeze, which is his personal movement tool, and I had a lot of fun using Nightwing. I think if you're a fan of the Batman universe and these characters, you'll find some enjoyment in the game. I think if you look past the clear live service DNA, that this game started out with, and you power through all that stuff and get to the really cool, really rich story that's underneath, with some of the best character writing and character moments I've seen from the Bat family, I really do think there is a game here that you can find some enjoyment in. I think if you were excited for this game going in, you'll enjoy it. I think if you've already decided that you weren't going to like it, you're not going to like it. I think there's an audience for this game. I think this game will find their fans, and I'm one of them. So don't shy away just because everybody else has decided that it's not good enough. Play it for yourself, decide for yourself, and I think at the end of the day, you will know after the first 5 or so hours whether or not you're going to like this game. So I think if you're a Batman fan, please give it a go. Don't touch it if you're not a fan of live service elements, but I think I'm going to give Gotham Knights a 7 out of 10.